How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of FSI's NASCAR DFS Pick Show. I'm your host, TK Nation 47, joined with Mega Ruler 31. Good morning, Mega. We are talking a little bit of racing here for the Atlanta races. We have two races today, the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. First up, we're going to talk about the Trucks here. We have a completely new racetrack here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Let's just talk a little bit about that, what we can expect.
Well, Atlanta used to be like a high tire wear track. It used to actually be, there were specific drivers that had really mastered this. And really, when it came to trucks and Xfinity, people would really struggle because you have lesser tires. And for them, like if anybody had any issues or spun out, like you're pretty much like losing laps, and it just was not good. So now with the repave, people are surmising that it might potentially be more like a plate track, even though it's 1.5 miles and Daytona is 2.5 miles. They're thinking that there might be some pack racing here. So I think, so we were blessed and cursed yesterday. The good Lord made it rain. So the good news is we know where everybody's starting because they used a formula and they didn't have qualifying. The bad news is we haven't seen a lick of practice, and they're just going to practice, and there's going to be a short window for us to make our final decisions. The trucks, they're going to be limited work on them. And yes, we discussed pre-show, they're probably not going to run many laps because they want to get the adjustments done, because once their practice is over, those trucks are sealed and they roll out onto the track. But it's no worse than it was last year when they had no practice, so at least they have something, and we'll see a couple of laps, and hopefully it's not like the first practice at the new Bristol dirt track, or when like everybody's like all spun out. And so I think I'm approaching this kind of like the Coliseum race for NASCAR, where we kind of knew some of the principles of the track, but we really didn't know how it was going to work out in the configuration with like speeds and stuff. So again, I think we're going to treat this like a plate one. We're going to look at guys in the back for place differential. I don't know if it's going to be pack racing, if people are going to be up front, and actually somebody like Chandler Smith who has the pole, is he going to get out and like dominate this, or are they going to be switching back and forth, or some driver is going to be like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm racing for a championship, so I'm just going to hang back a little bit and see what the rest of the people do, and then I'll get up there and race for stage points, and then hopefully we figure it out by stage 3, and then we'll go for the win. So what I did was, if you look at the screen, the far right column is their Daytona finishing. They're actually average running position. I don't want to go by finishing position because with Rex and stuff, that really doesn't. But this kind of shows you like where they're racing. Sorry, it's colored backwards. The green should be bad and the red should be good. So let me just fix that quick so it's not making us but yeah, and so it's nice actually knowing what the positions are going to be for starting for once, but it's hard because we generally don't know like how to expect this race. So bankroll management is going to be very key here. You're going to want to make sure that you're not like going crazy on this race. You're going to want to be able to live another day if it does not go as expected, if it turns into like a 1 or 2 dominator race or something like that, or if and NASCAR is the king of rule changes on the spot. And we've said that before, like any other sport. So I wouldn't be surprised if these trucks are going 200 miles per hour. If like, okay, everybody's going to drive with a parachute in the back, and then nobody's going to be able to pass at all. So you never know. And especially when we get to Xfinity, like once they see the trucks, if it is a complete calamity and they're going way too fast, they're going to put like a 50-foot spoiler on the back or something, to give them more, to ruin their aerodynamics so they can't run as fast. So who knows?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's going to be a ton of dominators. And we're talking here from a fantasy perspective real quick. I think this is going to be, we're going to have a competition caution for both races today because of the lack of practice and the lack of adjustment time, the lack of qualifying. There's going to be competition caution for each race. The track is, drenched. I'm sure track drying is going to be fine by the time these races kick off. So there's going to be no, Atlanta weepers, because, if you remember from years past, Atlanta's most famously known for the weepers anytime it rains at that track. But since the repave, I assume all systems are going to be go today.
And no 40-minute break for pothole filling.
Yeah, and I know the Atlanta track was fun for the drivers, but it was a real headache for fantasy for a fantasy perspective. I think this is going to be similar to like a Homestead tire wear. Still, they get 7 sets, so each racing team's going to have plenty of tires today. I still think because of the track and now the new banking, like you said, the Daytona correlation is pretty strong because of the banking that has been increased in the corners. So there's going to be a lot of low lines, and I think, it's going to be a packed racing kind of event, and pack racing breeds cautions, and that's why we're going to take a back of the pack approach. But there's some drivers we'll talk about here that are starting decently with some place differential points for some consistency. So let's just jump to it. Any interest here in the pole sitter, last week's winner, Chandler Smith?
I'm going to give him a GPP because just in case it is a dominator race, I think either he or Crafton in the third is the one that could get out there and lead early. I don't really have much faith in Friesen, Majeski, or Hocevar. That's why I have him as a fade in the top 10 or top 5 if it does turn into a dominator race. And I just, even though in their Daytona average running position was like 12th and 13th, and Hocevar was 22nd. That's not good enough for me paying 8 or 9K for a driver. Exactly. And I need to pump the brakes here too, because this could also be one where we don't worry about salary. If you were able to, we'll bury the lead here, because Ross Chastain is going to be probably in everybody's cash lineup because he is a very good driver. The Cam Racing truck is, and because they haven't raced this year, they were able to get on like former like drivers' points or owners' points, but they're starting dead last. Yeah. And we have seen this guy like win races, and he's a really good driver. The equipment should be okay, and he could win this race from starting dead last. So I definitely think there's one 10K guy that you're absolutely going to lock in. However, the rest of the lineup, I think you could potentially play guys and end up leaving a couple thousand, maybe even 10,000 on the table. So don't worry about using all your money this week.
Yeah, I think we should have started from the back, really. But Ross Chastain's gonna, Cram Racing, they do pretty well. Whenever they're not having, Dawson Cram race the truck,
right?
They do fairly well with
Jordan Anderson.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But except for as far as it doesn't apply in Xfinity because Brendan Brown and Jeremy Clement, but they're actually in like family, so they're not doing everything on their own.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's start with
talk about the.
I was
going to say let's just start in the back. With that, we talked about Chastain. We'll talk about Brennan Poole, who did not have to qualify, who had failed to qualify in the last few races.
I thought there would be bigger things for his Glory to God racing team, but I really haven't seen things. GPP, like he could very well finish 36. I mean, that's really not going. I mean, if there's a wreck on the first couple of laps, maybe you have a chance, but I don't think he's going to finish on the lead lap. He's a good driver, but this team really hasn't put it together yet. So GPP for me.
Exactly. I would have to completely agree. I'm not sold on Glory to God yet. But hopefully they can bring together some speed with a couple of good finishes. Jesse Little, Young Motorsports, 5,300. I assume this is one of the chalk plays of the slate.
Yeah, you know what? I might actually change Spencer Boyd to a cash play and make him the prime down here, because his average running position Daytona was 18. We have always had a history of playing Jesse Little in Xfinity in trucks when he has started this far back, because he's a guy that has a ceiling of like 20 or like a floor of 25 sometimes. So, definitely lock. I think,
the 5,300, lock that in. Yeah. That's probably the main play on the slate for me. Probably going to be around 60% ownership on him, and in the big ones for me as far as ownership. So love Jesse Little in the Young Motorsports 02, who is not a bad truck. Next up, we have Jordan Anderson here in the 7,600
Pricing's
is
too high. Yeah.
quite expensive. And we're talking about the Jordan Anderson rule. We have Jordan Anderson in the Jordan Racing. So I don't know. It's a stretch. GPP, I think, would be best.
Yeah, he didn't even qualify for Daytona, so can't even look at that.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns there with him. Blaine Perkins has been a decent
yeah, I think I can
truck. He's been decent on speed. 5,800 is quite the price tag. I like that idea. I think we're going to look in practice today for a lot of times here on these guys. And usually Perkins is a guy that does pretty well in qualifying and practice. And now we're going to get him back in the pack. I think he's in play.
Yeah, definitely.
Any thoughts on Jaskell or Boyd?
Same thing with Glory to God Racing. Not interested in him, but Spencer Boyd has been decent. I think he can get up into floor 25th, maybe into the top 20. It's a decent truck.
Yeah, 30th, not bad starting position. Chris Hacker and Thad Moffatt.
Thad Moffatt, I like. Daytona, he did actually quite well. He finished quite well. He kept it for a rookie first race. So I think he's a cash play, and he's actually been okay this season. He's progressing. Yeah, he's progressing pretty well. Chris Hackard, I'm not as high on, so he's a GPP for me.
All right, so we'll go Moffatt over Hacker. Next up, we have Haley Deegan. 7,100 is not too expensive. Starting 27th, I like this play.
Yeah, she ran really well at Daytona. She got spun out towards the end, but she still had an average running position of 16th. Yeah, I think definitely cash play.
Yeah, strong cash play for me as well. Colby Howard, 91, McNally, Heigelman Racing. 7,400 is quite expensive for Colby Howard.
Yeah.
Your thoughts here?
His average running position was 10th at Daytona, but the rest of the season, I really haven't seen much. If you look at his points per race, it's negative. Right. So that's why it's a GPP for me.
Right. This is still a mile and a half. The correlation between Daytona is strong, but I don't think all principles do apply in some way or shape or form. Colby Howard's going to have to showcase some speed in practice for me to be on board at 7,400. Next up, we have Zane Smith, 9,600, starting 25th. Daytona. Yeah,
I think you got to lock him in. It's an excellent truck.
Yep. I was going to say our second cash lock, probably Zane Smith.
Yeah.
Lawless Allen at the 45 Nice Motorsports, 6K.
Might finish where he starts.
Yeah, we're starting to get to the point where guys are starting a little bit too far forward, but not yet. But Lawless Allen, Timmy Hill, always a strong play.
Yep.
I would definitely understand this in cash.
He's right around the sweet spot too. We usually like him around 25th, so I think that's fine.
Yep, I think he's firmly in play. Jack Wood might be a pass for me. I don't see anything on Jack Wood I like.
Yeah, he might be
neither with Chris Fr8.
Yeah, same. I think they're right. If you just hope they finish where they start.
Right. Chris Fr8, 5,400, not a bad price tag, but 21st. Do you have any faith he finishes where he starts?
In this Nice truck, possibly. Like the 44 hasn't been bad.
Right. Yeah, you're really hoping he finishes around 20th, 19th.
Yeah.
It's possible, but
he might be a hair too high. That's why he's a GPP.
Right. Chase Purdy, Hattori in the 61, 7,200.
Now they didn't race Daytona. They didn't qualify for Daytona. So this eighth average running position I have is the other Hattori truck, because this should be just as good. But I don't know. I still think it's a GPP. Still a young driver trying to figure it out. A couple years in the series, but
yeah. Well said. Next up, we have Corey Heim in the 51. This is the fast truck.
He's wrecking it. It's not the track. Yeah. It's not the right track for him. Now I put him as GPP and not a fade, because he does have a fast truck, and maybe he could luck box the top 5 or top 10, get some place differential. So I think he's like he's turning into a Brandon Jones or a Kyle Busch. He's like somebody that's in
Right.
the equipment that could, it's all or nothing, literally.
Yeah.
But we haven't
Yeah.
even
Like
seen all yet.
40th or first. I'm not sold on Corey Heim. I'm going to completely just keep writing him off until he burns me.
Okay.
Derek Krauss in the 19 truck, 7,500, not a bad price tag.
Solid run at
Um,
Daytona, but you're
yeah.
really 18th or starting to get to the maybe starting too high. So uh, if I land on him, if it comes down to like
Yeah.
Chase Purdy or Colby Howard or Derek Krauss, I think, Krauss or Tyler Ankrum, who's starting way too high. I think that's definitely, in that 7K mid range. He's the one that you're looking at, even up against Jordan Anderson with less
Yeah.
place differential. I would think maybe Derek Krauss could finish high enough to get more points than Jordan Anderson.
Yep. Absolutely agree. Next up, we have Tate Fogelman. This is just a pure fade. Christian Eckes and Ben Rhodes. Here we go with Thor Sport here, 15th, 16th starting spots. They are expensive, but potential top 5 plays here, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And for that reason, I think they're both firmly in play as like if you're doing multiple lineups, you want to, rotate these kind of guys in your third truck, rotation, right?
Yep.
With your core. Yeah. I think that's strong. Next up, we have Matt Mills and Dean Thompson. These are both fades. Just absolutely luck boxed last week. But I mean, we were on Matt Mills last week. That was okay.
But it's the whole yo-yo thing, and we hit it. You want them to finish low, or start low and finish where they did last week. But then, if you get the formula thing, then you got to fade them and hope that they fail. So then the next time, they rise back up to where they're supposed to. So yeah, we're on the wrong side of the slope this time.
Exactly. Next up, we have John Hunter Nemechek. This is, the best truck in the series. Like if anyone's thinking Dominator here, this name does come to mind.
Yeah, he could definitely get up there and lead. And he's one, no matter what kind of track it is, that usually doesn't play the let's wait it out strategy. He's like, I am here to win a race, and I'm going to try to lead as many laps as humanly possible.
Exactly. And next up, we have Ryan Preece in the 17, David Gillen. I love when Ryan Preece steps into a truck.
Yes.
I always play him. Always play him when he's in a truck.
Yeah.
Excellent driver.
Yeah.
Yep. Next up, we have Tyler Ankrum in that 16 Hattori, 7,800.
He did a really good job at Daytona, keeping up in the top 10, but I think, there is some risk here with him falling down and back in this and not being a super experienced driver either. That's why I have him as a fade. I mean, he's a borderline GPP, but I think I'm just fading him just based on potential outcomes.
Sure. Next up, we have Tanner Gray, David Gillen in that 15, 8K.
I put him as a cash play just because he is one that you always look at. It's kind of like Brett Moffatt in Xfinity, where he'll start in the top 10. And you're like, you know what? He's never going to finish where he started. And then you keep on looking at the standing, and he just hangs around and never goes up and never goes down. So I think, he's having a really good season. He had a 10th average running possession at Daytona. So I think he could be a very sneaky, safe play. Not a high ceiling at all. He's not going to lead laps or win the race, but I think that he can do enough if he finishes in the top 10 to outperform a lot of people in his price range.
There you go. Next up, we have Grant Infinger, 9,400. Without leading laps, I think this is a stretch for a good play.
Yeah.
So I'm
really
going to be, GPP cautious. Yeah. 6,700 Austin Wayne Self.
If you started 27th, we would lock him in, but way too far forward.
Exact. 20 spots too far forward. Matt DiBenedetto in that Rackley War Machine, 9K. Not a bad price tag, but I'm not feeling the starting position.
We don't need the pricing this week. And it's really struggled at Daytona. Like they finally had a good result last week, and maybe that means things are moving forward. but it was a shorter track. It was a completely different style. So
Yeah,
not as interested here. And we already
correct.
talked about the rest of the top five. So I think what you're looking at today is you're going to lock in Ross Chastain, Jesse Little, and Zane Smith, and then maybe build with some of these other cash plays for place differential, and then rotate in
Yeah,
Ryan Priest, John Hunter Nemechek, Ben
yeah.
Rhodes, and Eckes. I think that's what you really want to look to do there. And if you want to get a
And
little
you're,
bit cute, throw in Tanner Gray if
yep.
for some floor there. And if some of the other chalk plays fail, he's going to be a differentiation.
I was going to say, if you wanted to get contrarian, you would then try to say, Chandler Smith is a dominator. I think that would be a low owned, shot at being contrarian, and or just balance it out with like Krauss and Tanner Gray, like you said. So I think the build is strong. We're going to roll with it and see what happens. And like you said, bankroll management on this unknown Atlanta track. All right, guys, that'll wrap up the truck video. Thank you, Mega. We're probably just going to hop right into Xfinity. So make sure you like this video, comment below with any questions you may have, and stay tuned and jump over to our Xfinity video for the race at 5. All right, guys, thanks.